I think the AI generated content piece is a short-term hack. And I think there still
Mm.
needs to be a human point of view and a human voice. And like, listen, if it's AI assisted, great.
Hey, I'm Guy Powell, and welcome to the next episode of the backstory on marketing and AI. And of course, if you haven't already done so, please visit prorelevant.com and sign up for all of these episodes and podcasts. And as you know, I'm the author of the upcoming book, or of the new book just released a couple weeks ago, and it's doing really well. I think I'm getting some great response. And actually, if you do purchase it, definitely write a review on Amazon, and that'll help to promote it even further. In any case, today I'm interviewing Justin Inman, and he's with Emberos. So let me tell you a little bit about him. So Justin is the founder and CEO of Emberos, and it's the first operating system built to orchestrate paid, owned, and earned signals for AI visibility. And he works at the intersection of brand strategy, AI systems, and predictive analytics, helping companies understand and influence how they appear inside the generative AI platforms. Wow, that is exactly where we need to be. And definitely as the funnel kind of gets squished down or definitely morphed, we need to be there. Welcome, Justin. So good to have you.
Marketing's operating system has been replaced. Not upgraded, not improved. Replaced, completely and totally replaced. AI isn't a tool you bolt onto your existing marketing organization. It's a fundamental redesign of how marketing thinks, operates, and creates value. And most CMOs are already behind. The AI marketing machine is the field guide for marketing leaders who want to get ahead of that curve. Built on more than a decade of the marketing machine methodology and interviews with over 100 CMOs, this book shows you how to harness generative and analytic AI together, without losing the human edge that makes great marketing unforgettable. This isn't theory, this is the playbook. How to redesign your team, how to build AI into the foundation of how you work, how to prove ROI in the boardroom, and how to lead the intelligent marketing machine that wins in the marketplace. Marketing's future is already here. The question is whether you're building it or watching someone else do it. The AI marketing machine, available now.
Thanks, Guy, and congrats on your book.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. It actually it was based on a bunch of these interviews. I've done about 150 interviews, and all of those interviews are a really good piece of what's in that book. But anyway, let's talk about you. So tell us what's your backstory on AI and marketing? How did you get involved in all of this really, really cool stuff?
Yeah, so I spent about a decade at Google, always on the enterprise sales team. So my clients have always been the CMO, and I like to say that I was helping marketers either through big, like technological transformations or shifts from consumers. And so whether that was, later stage search or the rise of mobile or YouTube or programmatic advertising or just like cloud infrastructure, digital transformation, I was helping marketers during these like larger transitions. Um, and I worked with some of the biggest CMOs of the world: Coca-Cola, L'Oreal, Unilever. I managed a team of global sellers for one of Google's top 20 customers, which was Sony, and we touched everything from cloud infrastructure to search. So have a lot of experience touching a lot of different facets of what marketers care about, whether that's traditional marketing or really thinking about it from the tech side. Started Embros last year because I saw my own personal LLM usage start to explode, and I like to say if my mom was putting ChatGPT, then I knew that this was a marketer's that space for freaking out about. And for me, I started to see that this was a much bigger space than I think where a lot of people are thinking this is headed. And so a lot of people are thinking this is more the next iteration of SEO, and that's unfortunately it's a narrow view, and I think the great SEO is fantastic, and that industry is amazing, and but what we're looking at now is these LLMs. They scan the entire internet, and so they look at the podcasts you're on, like this one. They look at YouTube and your social channels. They look at your own site, they look at PR, they look at your brand strategy, they look at everything, right? And so um, it is a much bigger issue than just your traditional like keyword optimization. It is thinking about it from your entire digital footprint, and that's paid, owned, and earned media, and that's where we come in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. One thing that I found with my book was, the LLMs do look at everything, and
Everything.
what's interesting about that is good and bad. The good news is that it does look at everything, but it basically takes the average of everything and then gives you an answer back. And quite often, what we need to do as marketers, we kind of need to say, no, 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 focus on this stuff and really do a deep dive on this stuff. And it's kind of interesting to see, as you feed more of the kind of specific stuff to the LLMs, how they give you a significantly better answer when you really make it and get it to be very specific as to what you're doing.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, and you're on the cutting edge. So a lot of consumers are just asking very basic questions right now. What is the best of, or what's the best running shoe? Not going too deep, but yeah. I mean, a lot of the consumer shifts are happening very very rapidly,
Yeah.
and they're starting to get to a level of sophistication. But I'd say we're in the early days right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even some of the larger corporations and brand owners are, for various, internal rules or whatever, they're still, just dipping their toe in the water, it seems like. So one of the things that's kind of interesting, I mean, a handful of years ago, we had search, and now we have kind of AI and AI assistants more or less replacing search engines as one of the interfaces and maybe even the primary interface for being discovered. How do you see that taking place, and where do you see that going?
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about search, let's call it what it is. We're talking about optimizing for Google. That's the majority of the lion's share, and I think
Yeah.
SEO is, you're thinking about it from a Google perspective. For the first time ever, there's so many different surfaces, right? There's ChatGPT, there's Claude, there's Perplexity, there's Grok, there's DeepSeek, and Meta now has their LLM, and TikTok is going to be rolling out one, and so like they're across the board. So there's a lot of different like surfaces that are outside of just the Google universe. When you're thinking about this space, like it's easy to fall into the trap of like this is I think our SEO team can do it. And not to say that, I think a lot of really good SEO people have like now started to really hone in their chops for AEO, and which is answer engine optimization, or GEO, generative engine optimization. Where I think the market is falling flat, though, is that that's just one piece of the pie. And what we're seeing, on our end, is that CMOs and you mentioned it too, brand managers are starting to wake up and saying, "Oh, this is not just that channel that we've kind of bucketed it into, like for the past 20 years. This is everything, right? This is the PR team, this is the social team, and we all have to work and orchestrate kind of our work coherently in order to show up in these LLMs in a coherent way, right? It's less about just getting recommended. It's about getting recommended correctly with the right price and the right positioning, and everything else. And so I think, like I said, I think we're in early days here, but I think the market is starting, at least the tip of the spear of the market is starting to wake up and saying, this is a CMO issue. And this is very much something that we need to start to build around and think about, because it's the next iteration of marketing that we traditionally didn't grow up on.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. We work with some regulated industries in healthcare and in financial services, and the CMO is unfortunately battling the governance team and saying, "Well, wait a minute. You can't do that. You can't personalize every email. You can't do all of the cool stuff that maybe AI would allow you to do." Do you see governance getting in the way of trying to optimize your search engine for, AEO? And is that an issue at all?
I think there's a lot of really interesting compliance and governance companies that are popping up that are AI focused, that are starting to streamline those things. We are focused on governance in a different way. We're rolling out a product called Echo that is, and we work with highly regulated industries as well: biotech, pharmaceuticals, financial services, you name it. what I think is the an interesting thing is it's a concept that I'm not sure if the entire market has really thought about it yet, but is are the outputs of the LLMs compliant? So if you're asking about insurance and you want that response to be compliant within your world, like you need to be able to optimize towards that, because a lot of times that are happening is the outputs aren't compliant, which there needs to be some sort of governance that happens in that world as well. So like we're thinking about it from like the LLM output standpoint, but definitely to your point, like I think people are starting to wake up, at least on the marketer side, and really start to staff appropriately. But also, technology is allowing us to make these like governance and compliance like work streams a little bit quicker and easier. So, I think probably a ton of innovation over the next 12 to 24 months on that.
Yeah, and I think that's it's critical because the worst thing you can do is you I don't know, you spend, I don't know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands on search, and then all of a sudden you get sued for 50 million because
Exactly.
something happened, and the risk is just, unfortunately, it's there.
And
Um,
they're going to be blaming the brand, right? Not
yeah.
ChatGPT.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Well, they're going to go after both. Wherever the money is, the lawyers are smart and they know, up, there's money over here and there's money over there.
that's
Let's
true.
see if we can get both of them.
Totally.
So, one thing you talk about as well is this concept of share of prompt. And what do you mean by that, and how do you measure that?
Yeah, so we look at your total. It's our version of share of voice, but for LLMs. We, as we got deeper into the space, we saw that your traditional like, kind of linear TV share of voice wasn't applicable to this space because it's so dynamic and ever changing. And so we created a metric called share prompt. And we calculate that by looking at the types of prompts that people are asking, whether that's a branded prompt, right? So if you're Nike, someone is going and asking about Nike. That's the first kind of category. The second category is around competitive. So is it Nike versus Adidas or any of the other Nike competitors? Like, where do you score on that? And then the third is actually intent-based prompts. So where do I buy that best running shoe? We look at all the different types of prompts that people are asking about that specific brand. We categorize them, measure them, and then we roll that up to what we call share prompt. And we that's kind of like our guiding light, our guiding measurement throughout the platform that everyone is looking at to benchmark, but also to optimize towards.
Yeah. So, are there any tools that are out there that can help? Does SEM Rush, does that get you anywhere on that?
So yeah, I mean, I think share prompt is our kind of like coined methodology, like how we're approaching it. SEMrush and some of these other tools are really looking at AI visibility metrics and seeing how visible you are for your brand or your product that you're looking at. I think AI visibility is becoming pretty table stakes now. Like just to understand that point of time metric to see like how you're showing up. What I think that the where the space is headed and what we're building towards is the AI visibility data is just the core foundational pieces of it. It's really what gets unlocked on top of that, and
Mm.
that's really the optimizations across your site, the PR teams, the social teams, your brand teams in general. And so like we're really focused on that and the optimization piece and the executional like layer versus just the kind of like core baseline visibility metrics, almost vanity metrics that are pulling out across like, you have Adobe, you've got HubSpot that has a AI visibility kind of like measurement tool. You've got a ton of the players in the space, and I think it's pretty commoditized now. Um, it's what do you do with that data, and how does that data inform your larger kind of marketing strategy? That's I think where the missing piece is, because a
Yeah.
lot of these players in the space are really just saying like optimize towards these prompts, and it's a very narrow kind of view of the world where it's like yeah, I like to say like it's cracking the window and barely looking through. It's the bigger piece of the pie where you're looking at it across all the different signals and really thinking about it from a much broader perspective.
Well, it seems like the what people are putting into AI, and I don't know, this is a question, but in the form of a statement, but is, if they're very intention based, like you were saying, hey, where can I buy, the best kind of Nikes at the lowest price near me, and they're typing that into Claude or ChatGPT or Llama or wherever it is, something that's that intention, centric. Are you able to see that and then really be able to, I don't know, respond properly to that?
Yeah, so we do, we might pick up on portions of that, right? Like if it's like I'm a 39-year-old male with two kids, and like it's a very long, kind of winded prompt that is very customized. No, we won't be able to do that. But what we will be able to do is look at the sources that those types of prompts would be pulling from, and changing those. And so
Mhm.
we look at kind of like the like a query fan out, right? Like so, if it has a bunch of different variations of what that question will look like, we look at that top level question, and make sure that we are optimizing the sources of the where AI cites from those, and that's how we are kind of helping our agencies and marketers really think about it versus like the highly customized prompts that people would be
Yeah,
asking.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, is that any different? I mean, if you think about paid search and paid digital, all of those are tied to a landing page, hopefully a very specific landing page that matches what the person was searching for. But in organic search and then certainly in AI search, the actual landing page that they get in organic search is one thing, but then on the AI search, it's responding with an answer which says, hey, here are three sites or three companies that'll give you the best price on Nikes near you. Is that kind of the difference, or is there more to it than that?
You know, it depends on the industry, the vertical. Like, we see Reddit is a massive driver for AI search, right? And so, if there's a negative sentiment on Reddit, a brand needs to know to either try to naturally insert themselves or work with the Reddit influencers to kind of change the conversation. For us, like we try to proactively give them optimizations to get ahead of it versus like looking for through the rear view mirror. Like we say, hey, entertainment company, there's a hallucination about your movie title,
Hmm.
about what it is, right? LLMs misgenre entertainment about 20% of the time, which may not sound like a big deal, but it's actually a massive deal if you're looking at a
Hmm.
big studio release and it's labeled as a violent thriller, but it's actually a dark comedy. You basically alienate a bunch of a population that's saying, what should I go do this weekend? And so we'll say, hey, create 3 YouTube videos that specifically address that, and proactively get ahead of it, right? And
Hmm.
that's different than your typical like site level optimization. Hey, PR team, here's the boilerplate when you talk to Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, and Variety. Um, here's the top questions that people are asking about your film. Make sure to address those across different sort of surfaces so people are asking, like, have a clear understanding of what the movie's about.
Hmm.
So it's much broader, right? It's not just like, hey, let's optimize the FAQs on our site. Now that's important, and we definitely suggest that. But it's really thinking about leveraging your current roster of teams that work with you or partners that work with you, and how to proactively get ahead of some of these things, versus reactively kind of responding.
Yeah,
Does that make
yeah.
sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like it's not then only content on your site, like putting some videos up, but then also getting social and especially Reddit, of course, to get them to start to address some of those answers that will then feed into the LLM, so they'll have the right answers. So to your point, not miss or not misattributing. Well, misattributes wrong, not hallucinating about the wrong genre for the movies. That's just fascinating.
Yep, yep, and it's the same issue with gaming, and the same issue with products. Like it just depends on what the vertical is that we're touching. Biotech. You mentioned highly regulated industries. Biotech, is really taking a hit because they've historically gated a lot of their information, and a lot of their research. And so, if someone's asking a biotech kind of question, the sources that AI is picking up is either like what's publicly available, and what's publicly available is it's highly politicized, right? So the left
Mm,
is anti big pharma and insurance, on the right is Maha, and you've got this completely unregulated health and wellness industry that is having a ton of content. And so AI is picking up on all these sources, and the response is not even scientific. And so
mhm.
we're working with biotech companies and pharmaceuticals and some of the other ones, but like the health companies, to really make sure that the correct information is getting cited, that they are leveraging their current assets that they've maybe are gated in the past, for LLMs to be able to read, to really shape the conversation to the right way, versus being influenced by an unregulated health and wellness industry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. Wow, that is so fascinating. And it's funny. Um, well, I don't know if it's funny, but sometimes when I look at the AI marketing environment, a lot of the marketing activities and the marketing content is now being generated by AI, or at least assisted by AI. And sometimes with a lot of human intervention, sometimes with not so much. And so then, but what's fascinating though is then it sounds like there's actually a whole set of content that's still missing out there to make sure that you're not just feeding the humans that are going after it, but is to feed the engines so that they properly can respond to the prompts that are going to be important to your business.
Totally, totally. And I think just like double clicking on the AI generated content piece, LLMs favor a unique point of view, and I think there's been a lot of companies that are basically like AI slop content farms that have been popping up, that basically just push out more and more content
Hmm.
to game these LLMs. Early days of search, of keyword stuffing, if you remember
Yep.
what that world
Yep.
was like.
Absolutely.
And so that's what's been going on. And I think these LLMs are starting to wake up, and say, okay, this is spam. And unfortunately, some of these companies are very big now, but they that's their core business model, right? And I think a lot of their clients are entertaining these kind of AI generated content, articles or websites or whatever, and basically they're hurting their traditional search because they're spamming the internet. In some cases, they're getting delisted, which is a massive issue. And like, you got to be thinking about, is this a short-term hack, or is this something that like is going to be sustainable? And I think the AI generated content piece is a short-term hack. And I think there still
Mm.
needs to be a human point of view and a human voice. And like, listen, if it's AI assisted, great. But AI fully like just pushing out more and more content via AI, like it's one, I always say, like, how does AI have like the human context of it? Like, if you're Nike, it doesn't know like that running shoe is out of stock. So you're just continuing to push out more and more AI generated content or slop that's like then has a life expectancy of about like a week at these LLMs, and then you're basically creating a snake eating its own tail, right?
Hmm.
It's just like hallucination after hallucination after hallucination. It's creating an AI slop content, like internet. So, if I was a marketer listening to this, I'd be very wary of like those types of tactics, and just do your homework. Like, it's an easy fix, but like it will
Yeah.
hurt you in the long term.
Yeah. Sounds like the old black hat versus the white hat kind of
Totally.
work that was done. Absolutely. It's amazing how that what goes around comes around. And even, now here we are in AI and AI optimization. So now you talked about measuring, influence and stuff like that. How do you actually see that in practice? How the measurement of how, influential your brand is for these AI systems?
Yeah. So without going too far into the technical weeds here, we've created a graph based system. We call it the brand knowledge graph, and it's very similar to Google Search Graph. Um, it was important for us to not look at this from like a single view. And I think a lot of the platforms in the market today are a single tenant, which is like, I keep on using the Nike example, but it's a very easy one to understand. So if you're Nike, you're only looking at Nike's world. Our graph-based system, like we can map over entities, and those entities could be brands, products, creative assets. That could be influencers' names, politicians' names, etc. Once we map those over to our system, we have a city map of how the internet looks to that specific entity. And so we can see all the biggest influencing factors online, whether that's the publishers, the competitors, your verticalized, your kind of larger, digital footprint. And so we track things over time, and we'll be able to say, hey, if you make this change, we predict X outcome will happen with this level of confidence. And that's how we're actually able to optimize, because it's a graph based, and it's really
Mm.
thinking about it from the relationship standpoint versus the single tenant standpoint of just looking at Nike alone.
Yeah, interesting. Well, it's so funny because quite often marketers kind of get the blinders on and they're just thinking about their own brand and they quite often just forget about what the competition is doing and one of our clients is like that and we're as much as we're trying to push them to learn more and unfortunately buy more information on what the competitors are doing, they're not quite there yet. So and unfortunately that's kind of endemic in the industry.
Yeah, it's everyone will start to wake up though. I think it's once it's a different world with this world. It's we grew up on a 10 blue link world. This is a short list of three, and
Yeah.
and basically everyone is optimizing or thinking about optimizing to this world. So it's going to get harder to play in this space. And so you're going to really have to be thinking about what your competitors are doing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, we kind of talked about, AI content, and of course now, how the purchase funnel, at least maybe the top and the middle, has been compressed. In some cases, maybe a lot in terms of the information gathering and the consideration, and then the final decision making. And so, this kind of AI mediated commerce. So, what does that mean for marketers and especially technology leaders like the IT team that now has to potentially figure out ways to support the marketing team with all of these tools to make sure that their brand is being positioned well in the AI engines.
Yeah, I mean, it's a new skill set. And it's a new skill set for marketers. It's another thing they have to think about. I mean, I would say the cloud world and like the programmatic advertising got marketers really on the tech front. So like it's not something marketers are adaptable, right? And I think they're smart and they can understand the tech pieces of it as well. um and it's something that, like I said, like it's you have to really start to think about how you organize yourselves for this future, because it is no longer can all these teams live in silos. They all have to talk to each other. They all have to like basically work in unison, which is a very different world than we historically know. A lot of it's today, like if you're at P&G, like you work on your brand and you work on your brand and that's it. And there's a world now where those walls are starting to collapse from different organizations, different brands, and sharing best practices and these things. So if I was a marketer today and like thinking about it, about what this future is, I would be thinking about like do I have the right like team and structure in place to be able to compete in this net new world or net new channel, because it's going to require a lot of orchestration, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. Well, do you see then? I mean, it sounds like the organizational structure of marketing is going to change, and there's going to be some added functions. So, what do you see kind of as the AI marketing AI kind of functional positions that may need to be created in order to stay ahead of this and be very competitive in the AI space?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some sort of like AI specialists that's like the next iteration of like SEO managers. So AI search specialists, something like that. And I think the brand managers are going to be like AI brand managers, where they are managing their brands as another kind of leveraging AI to manage the brand. So we'll see what that looks like, but I think they're going to have to leverage tools to pick up signals to understand how their brand is being perceived or represented in LLMs, but also into the world as well. And so it's going to be a straddling both the digital world, but also the offline world, which is obviously something they already do. But like The digital world will help influence some of the stuff that happens in the offline world, right? Because it's going to pick up on so many different signals that they haven't historically had access to, and it's the walls are starting to cave in a lot of different ways. Um, and then I think the CMO is going to be obviously, and they're already starting to be, but like more AI forward and leveraging kind of the best tools in the market to get them to that next level.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm just curious. So when I do a search, I don't know, it's habit. I go into Google and I'll type in something, we're doing renovation on our house, so I'm looking for, hey, a new sink or whatever it happens to be. And you get depending on the search, you get the paid search responses, then you get maybe the AI overviews, and then you get the organic ones. And just curious, what have you seen as kind of the switch or the transition over to where the AI search is now? Like, what is the percentage of AI responses and searches that are being more clicked on than those that are in paid or maybe even, AI versus organic? Have you seen any numbers like that or any charts that say, hey, it's going to grow by, 50% or whatever it is?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, AI overviews, I think it's triggered now over 60 or 70% of the time. So it's that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Uh, and the Google IAO a couple months ago announced that everything is going to be AI search. So we're all heading towards that direction, and the typical Google search world is going to go, as we know it, is going to go away in some
Hmm.
capacity. Um, and really, Google wants to make that entire web experience in AI search or Gemini,
Hmm.
meaning you mentioned click, like we're in a zero click world now. So what does that look like if everyone is being able to research, and actually eventually purchase in the single channel without actually going to the physical site is very different. And honestly, it begs the questions. Well, it begs the question around the future of publishers and what that looks like if no one's going to their site and everything's getting scraped, and also to your own site too. Like, what's the role of the website if no one's actually going to it? I do have some like point of view. I have a point of view on that. Just like I think, and getting back to the AI slop world, but like I think there's going to be so much slop. I still think websites are going to be very useful in the future, but I do think in order to cut through the noise, it's going to have to be either very customized or dynamic.
Mm.
Meaning, Guy, if you and I go to a website, maybe in 12 or 18 months, it's going to look very different for me than it does for you. And I think there's already starting to be some innovation on that. Google's doing a lot of work on that. Like, what is the future of the website? But yeah, I mean, I think just in general, to answer your question, like that train has already left. Like AI search is here, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. The stat that I know off the top of my head is like 60 or 70% is AI overviews already triggered by
Mm.
typical
Yeah.
Google search.
Certainly for me, I mean, I heart almost now. I mean, I have paid search response blindness, and I don't even look at those anymore. But
Yeah.
so how does Google then recover? Are they going to start putting paid links inside the answers, and then are we as consumers going to trust those paid links in there?
That's the $1 million, or not billion. That's $1 trillion question
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
Google's very good at finding money, so I think they'll be just fine. It'll be interesting to see, what their play is once ChatGPT ads, which have rolled out, what the shift looks like from traditional like Google search ads over to them. I think once they start to feel the bleed from that, you'll start to see a lot of like interesting ad placements and
Yeah.
dynamic.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be that intrusive. Like I think that they'll want to make sure they preserve kind of like the natural organic piece of it, where it's not just like paid. To be seen. I don't have all the answers, but I know them, and they're gonna figure out a way to make
Yeah.
sure that they keep their core search business, but are still able to compete into this next new AI era.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, they've trained us with free. and now they're going to have to maybe retrain all of us to it still be free, I guess, the result, but then whether the ad is on the side or somehow built in or something like that, then it just kind of becomes like a publisher site with some paid digital advertising or paid programmatic on it or
Yeah,
whatever, I guess. Yeah,
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to finding out and following it because you got this behemoth with Google search and the amount of money it's making on search, and now that transition over to AI search and how they're going to maintain their prices for the and their value for the stock market is going to be very, very interesting.
I think for the first time, Google's like ever really had like an incumbent, right? Like, but I always like to say this, Google, even if it might feel like Claude or ChatGPT is winning the race, the AI race. I was during the time where AWS was eating our lunch at Google,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
now you see Google Cloud, it's everywhere. They've chipped away at that business, and they've done a very good job at it. It's slow moving cruise ship, right? And they know they just chip and chip and chip and chip
yep,
away because they have the
yep.
resources to be able to do it. So like I was a betting man. I wouldn't put it against Google. I think they'll figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, fantastic. Well, I appreciate that. So
Yeah,
I won't sell my Google stock yet just yet then.
I wouldn't do it. Yep.
Well, very good. Well, we're going to have to close here, but I do have one last question for you, and that is, and I ask everybody this because I think it's really pretty critical, and that is, what advice would you give an up and coming new marketer as they're now trying to break into marketing and they kind of see this AI potentially as their competition?
I would change your perception of that pretty immediately. I think the marketers that are coming into the space now today, like, if they lean into AI, they will be rock stars. The ones that are scared of it won't be able to compete. And so I think if you are a marketer, a young marketer, like entering into the space right now, you need to get up to speed on all the tools, all the kind of tactics and strategies to leverage AI to do your job better. Because I'm very much not part of like the camp of like AI is going to destroy all of our jobs. And I live in it. I work in it every single day. Like there needs to be a human in the loop because we're not there yet, and I don't even know necessarily we're going to be fully there. So don't let that discourage you. And I think if anything, this is a massive opportunity, right? Like anyone in the workforce today hasn't seen like a transformation like this. Like it's happening so rapidly, and it's unlocking net new opportunities that you know we have never been exposed to. So like, I think you can at your core be a marketer, but also be tech forward. And I think that's probably the best bet that you could have on yourself. And yeah, I think it's just you have to change your perception of it. It's not you versus AI. It's really you versus the world. So
Yeah, 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 absolutely. It's funny because I don't know whether it was maybe 15, 20 years ago, it was it was office automation and then it was the internet and jobs were going to be lost and jobs were going to be lost. And yet there's probably every time there's more and more marketers and more office people and so all of this technology ends up leading to more people involved, but it definitely changes. And I think you're to your point, if you don't embrace AI, then you will be left to the side. Whereas if you embrace it, then you can grow and expand and take advantage of it.
totally, totally.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Justin, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So, where can folks learn more about you and your company?
LinkedIn. Yeah, go to LinkedIn, follow Embaros, and yeah, you can reach out to me directly as well. So, yep.
Fantastic. Well, so the company is Embros. How do you spell that?
Emberos, and also you can go to our site. So it's Emberos, EMBEROS.ai.
Fantastic. EMBEROS.ai. Fantastic. Well,
Yep.
Justin, thank you again. Really appreciate it. And for the audience, definitely stay tuned for many other videos in this series. on the backstory of AI and marketing. And if you get a chance, take a look at my book. It's on Amazon. You can download it or you can buy the physical copy and go from there. And if you do, definitely leave me a review there, and that'll help me sell more. Appreciate it. Justin, thank you so much. Really appreciate it today.
Thank you. That was great.